First of all, like, I'm sorry to hear about your grandma. That's like, if it goes to a debate or whatever, I want to start with. He might not want to be on camera. Some Palestinians don't make because they want to go back.
If you want to be on camera, if you guys want to debate and have a chat, come in.
I don't even want it to be a debate. I'll debate. I'll debate Adnan Rashid. I don't want to debate people who are directly affected. I want to listen, and I want them to listen to me.
It's never going to happen. It's too late. But
so they can
have a good chat.
Which camp was? You said she was from a refugee camp. Which one?
She was living in the north. She moved to the south. She went to the UNRWA school. She was staying there. She's 89 years old. She needs special treatment. She has diabetes and a lot of chronic diseases. She didn't receive good medication and good.
I'm just standing close so the mic picks you up. So like in your face.
And good diet. Then she died from medical complications.
So
she was presented on the
So we say in Hebrew, both Dayan Emet and Chaim Aruchim, which basically is it's saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the true judge.
You say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I say
This is her on CNN. Where's the camera? Yes. On CNN.
And for me, this is a tragedy of war. For every Israeli that's killed, for every innocent one, there's no way in my mind that she's guilty of anything. She's an elderly woman. She's your grandmother. You seem like a nice person. You're not coming with rage or hate towards me. Your parents raised you, and she raised your parents. So I'm sure that she is a good person. And genuinely, I'm sorry for your loss. There's no we may be some other people were enemies. So we can get there. We can get there. So this is where we would diverge. So I think Hamas are responsible for initiating the war and leading to the the tragic death of your grandma. And I don't like debating on this subject because it's not just a personal. It's a real
It's the core of the subject, and you don't.
And so this is what I'm saying. So you will see it. You will blame the IDF because there was an Israeli soldier. There was the Israelis that told her to move into the south. And I would blame Hamas because they invaded Israel and launched the war. And they launched the war from a place. They fortified Gaza City and turned Gaza City.
You know that we can't talk about this subject by understanding the whole conflict. It's an occupation. People always try to treat this cause, Palestinian, Israeli cause, okay, Hamas or whatever. Don't treat it as an occupation. Israel always is trying to delete anything related to Palestine. This side is not allowed to do this.
Come on, Cam. You're being really eloquent.
Yeah, no, I don't think this guy's good for the world. This is a much better conversation, by the way.
You occupy the land. Then you try to destroy and delete anything that's related to Palestine. You're now reaching to the point that you're calling Falafel that is Israeli. Falafel is Israeli and the Hamas is Israeli.
La. Habibi. What do you think that Yahud who lived in Jaffa? What do you think that Yahud who lived in Al-Quds ate? They ate falafel. They don't call them Arab Jews. We don't call them Arab Jews. We call ourselves Mizrahi.
I mean, but all of these are steps into deleting anything that's related to Palestinian identity.
Can I respond to that? Yeah. So you spoke about an occupation, and this is how I see it. In 2005, Israel disengaged from Gaza. It pulled every single Jew out of Gaza, and it could have been the Singapore, right? It could have been an opportunity. You can even go back to 48. In 48, if the Palestinians or the Arabs, because they weren't being Palestinian back then, you were there, but you didn't call yourself Palestinian. Not you, but like maybe your grandma or anyone that was alive back then. The Palestinian national identity really came about in the 60s. Only Bey Abd al-Hadi said there's no such thing as to the Peel Commission in 36. There's no such thing as Palestine. Palestine is the word the Zionists invented. All of these.
This is a document from my father's brother who had a permit to build to erect a wall. And where? Government of Palestine.
Mandatory Palestine.
When is this? It's in 1943.
So what is mandatory Palestine, as we both know?
Even before that. The word Palestine is derived from the word Palestine.
From the word Palishtim, which is a Hebrew word which means invaders, because they were Greeks who came and established a five-city Pentapolis.
You call it in Hebrew
Palestine. It means Palestinian.
And the language, the pharaohs called it, or whatever, whatever language is it. At the end, in Arabic, it's Philistine.
The Philistines weren't Arabs, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, then they became Arabs.
The Canaanites ceased to exist. Anyway, let's not go back to the issue.
They don't belong, they belong to Palestine.
No. So what we're saying to bring them up. So in 48, it's my fault because I said the whole thing about Pakistan. So I'll ignore that. In 48, if the Arabs had declared independence and there'd been an Arab state alongside a Jewish state, like we could have had 75 years of coexistence. Me and you could be sitting there eating falafel, which you think we stole from you, but alas, we'll ignore that. We could have been eating falafel there. There would have been no conflict.
We have already been living there before the British people interfered.
Habibi, in 1844, Jews were the majority.
Muslims have always been living with peace. The golden era of the Jewish people. You know, one of the most powerful Muslim rulers was ruling Andalus.
Which one? No.
His prime minister was Jewish.
Yeah,
prime minister.
Yeah.
And you say you need to live in coexistence. We teach you coexistence. You don't teach us coexistence. You Zionists have been killed us. My grandfather was kicked out of Asqalan. You call it Ashkelon, whatever, to Gaza. And then from Gaza kicked out everywhere. And people are dying there. You're trying to tell us coexistence. Jews have only lived with peace under the Muslim ruling.
That's not true.
How not?
That's not true.
They have all of been living.
So we were this is Denmark. We were persecuted. But I don't want to go religious things. I think that's all the time.
Then you say.
So I am a Zionist.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
Zionism literally means I support the. I don't know. You probably don't support the Jews. They shouldn't follow them. Any.
Don't support occupation.
Okay.
25,000. Are you happy?
Yeah.
So
you happy? 25,000. You happy?
I don't trust Hamas's numbers, but I don't.
Hamas numbers. No. Even cannot say big number.
It always says that Hamas Ministry of Health says.
Okay, then your Hebrew channels trust Hamas. It's not
But would you make a difference? The genuine question: you're both Palestinians. Would you make a difference between Hamas and just like the Palestinians in Gaza, or would you say that they did?
Hamas defends the resistance in Gaza and resistance for Palestinians.
So can I understand what is your claim?
So my claim is very simple. Jews, or like they claim to be in the land. Jews have always lived in the land. It's where we had our ethnogenesis. It's where we became a nation, a people. We had the longest kingdoms that ever served there. And then, I know for the last 1,400 years, basically, 1,300 years, it's been under Islam. But we had kingdoms that stood there for a long time. So the Jews have always lived in the land. Some of the modern day Palestinians descend from ancient communities. As you said, there will have been
around 30%.
I'll tell you what, put this on you so I can pick you up as well. Your voice in there. This will get us to. Nabateans were like Arab people that lived in the land. There were
Arabs.
That's what you said.
Okay, I misheard you. I misheard.
Yeah. So I said that there were Arabs who lived in the land a long time, like the Nabateans. But most of the Arabs, the modern Arabs that live there today, that identify as Palestinian, that are the Palestinians, they came more recently. Many came with Umar ibn al-Khattab, and so like if you look at the different. Sorry, it's going on. Let's go on. Sorry, I'm making your claim rather than mine. So the Jews never left the land. The Jews became a people in the land. The Jews, as an indigenous people in that land, have a right to live there, and I believe a right to a nation. I don't think that necessarily has to come at the expense of a Palestinian state. Up until the 7th of October, I supported the two-state solution. Now I think a two-state solution is possible, but it could not be with Hamas, and it could not be even like we look at the West Bank, and you look at, did you see where they lynched two Palestinians who they believe were collaborators, and literally they're stamping on the head, and like there's some real. Israel can't have a two-state solution.
Before 1987, there was no Hamas. What was going on there?
Before what? 47? 87?
Yeah.
So then it was Fatah, it was the PLO.
Okay.
Yeah. Like there were different factions before.
First of all, talks about right now.
Yeah.
You need to read it and say Jews don't have a right over the file country. In the sense of 2,000 years ago, yes, you did have it. No one did mention that. 100%. However, there's a big difference between them. So the Rahim that always lived there, and the Arabs, like they lived there, they do.
No difference between the Iraqi and the Nazi.
However, the ones that lived in Poland and the ones that lived in Europe are completely different in the sense of they lived in their own countries. When they came over and immigrated into the country of Palestine, they took over, illegally took over the country in the sense of the British illegally gave control over Palestine to the Jews.
So can I ask you, I understand what you're saying, can I ask you both a real straight question? You give me an honest answer. You both believe as Palestinians you have the right to go back, yeah? Yeah, you believe it's your country. In 100 years, if Israel's still there, do you still have the right to go back?
Just okay.
In 500 years' time, do you still have the right?
That's actually a very disingenuous question.
That was quite genuine.
Disingenuous question because that imply that we don't have the right to come back.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying I think you have a right to go back.
Okay.
So sorry, so you didn't. So no. So what I'm saying is, I believe that if in 100 years' time, like you descend from
Another
there,
100 years.
yeah, in 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, I want a future where it can't be with the current regime, but where there could be an Arab state and a Jewish state side by side, Jews and Arabs living in both, Jews and Arabs living in both.
I believe in a one.
Yeah, so I don't want to live as a minority under Islam again, but that's another argument.
We'll talk.
But the thing, what I'm trying to say, what my argument was very simple, was Jews, we lost our sovereignty. We lost our right to self-determination in the land. In the same way that you believe that the Palestinians should have the right to self-determination, and you've kind of lost that, you don't have a state. You kind of have the PA, but they've not got that much. I agree. Abu Mazen is. I would say they're for me, but they're not for you either. They're for themselves, I'd
They're
say.
for you. They kill Palestinians.
They kill Palestinians to make themselves rich in the same way that Hamas kill Palestinians.
So right now, would we agree that Palestine was illegally given by the British to the Jews?
I disagree with that.
Okay, why?
So because that's not what happened. British abstained from voting in the 47 partition
Well, that's
vote.
very disingenuous again, because what happened from 1917?
So 1917 was the buffer. How governments work is you can have a government which is favourable for something, and then 40 years later they can be. So for instance, if you look at LGBT rights in the West today, it's hard to believe that Barack Obama voted against gay marriage when you look at where the world is, and that's just in a short space of time. So in 1917, Britain they had a government that was very pro Jews having a homeland in that land. By the time the partition vote came along in 47, the British were actually very pro-Arabist and quite hostile.
You can't put in people, and then after most of them are in, and then you start saying, okay, we'll limit, because I know what you're talking about. When they started limiting Jewish
that was
immigration.
39. That was
from 1917.
That was 39.
Okay.
To 39.
From 1917 to 1939, they did not limit. They only encouraged Jewish immigration into
I just think they encouraged it. I agree with you.
And then from 1939, I'm not deluded. After 1939, they did stop limiting Jewish immigration.
But not Arab immigration.
But I'm saying, okay, what happened in 1939?
There's no point in him
Sorry.
You're
not
on
camera. By the time,
he doesn't want to be on camera.
No,
he wants to be on camera.
By the
He's
time,
not.
Do you mind being on camera?
yeah, that's fine. Sir.
Yeah,
But
and then
by-
can you go back a little? Yeah.
I mean, everyone's look at this. This is the closest Jews and Palestinians have made. They're quite cleverly.
So by the time of 1947,
Yeah, they were like.
about 30% of the land was by Jews and 60% of the land was by Muslims, right? If you go by any democratic country, it will be run by Muslims. It won't be run. Can I say it will be? Yeah, so basically,
Jewish conspiracy.
so it doesn't have to be run just by Muslims. It just has to be run democratically. Israel won't exist because if there was a vote, the majority would have actually voted against Israel, not for Palestine, not for Israel. That's the whole point. However, Palestine was illegally occupied by the British, which gave the land to the Jews, and that's the point.
So there's things we agree on. I agree that let's say prior to the 40s, Arabs had a larger population. If you look at the original UN partition plan, it gave actually allocated more land to the Arab state, and I'll show you. And the Jews got the worst land as well. Like the Jews got all the Negev. If you're from there, you both know the Negev. It's not that fertile. The desert barren, it's rocks and sand. And whereas the fertile land, like the West Bank, the Judean hills, it's the Jordan, that was all to the Palestinians and the Arabs back then. Well, I'm kind of agreeing with you. The Arab majority population, there's no argument there. But I'm saying that the land was divided where Jews had larger land ownership and where they had larger population. The Jews. That's where they drew the lines for the Jews, for the partition. Now, what most people don't understand is British mandate in Palestine. Sorry for being a bit aggy before. My bad. You weren't pushing me, I know. Now, are you being? Kind of lost my thought then, but yeah, in the partition. Can you remind me where I was? Like,
You were at majority Jewish area.
so I can take it from someone was good, but the majority of the land was actually. So the land was divided. It was divided along the population lines of where they were living. And I was going to go back to what most people don't know is British Mandatory Palestine, because you brought out a sign of British Mandatory Palestine that actually included a huge region of land. 75% of British Mandatory Palestine was given to the Arabs, and they didn't call it Palestine. Do you know what they called it?
When was it?
This is 1922. They called it the Emirate of Jordan. Jordan used to be part of British Mandatory Palestine. No, it's fine. You know, like, we all know that. So basically, the British took, I think, like 19 maybe or 20. They were given the mandate, and they were given the mandate to reference what you said, which was Balfour, the Balfour Declaration. They were given the mandate on the condition they establish a Jewish national home. So the Jews thought they were going to get Jordan, Israel, West Bank, Gaza, and that was going to be the Jewish national home. The first thing the British did was they reneged on that, because basically before that it was the Ottomans. They controlled the land. The British then reneged on the deal and gave most of the land to the Arabs. And the Jews were like, well, what's going on? What's left should be ours, because that's only like 25% of the land. But then you guys' ancestors, I'll finish the thought and then you can. Your ancestors were like, no chance, mate. We're not dividing this part. This is all about.
What would be the first reaction of the British right now if the French come and try to occupy it? What would be the initial reaction? They would want to take out.
They were resistance. I understand. What? Oh,
so they would
look sharp to camera. You can't be having it.
They would want a resistance, right? So they wanted to take out all of the Jews in the 20s, right? But by the time of 1939, as you said, they encouraged immigration into Palestine, right? And actually, this was illegal in the sense of the majority, no matter how to say it, 10% or 30%, only up to 30% of the land was occupied by the Jews, or should I say, were Jewish, and 60%, right? So if you actually did the democracy, which is actually, because you're trying to say at that time they didn't have democracy, no. At that time, the British did have democracy, and if they did have democratic vote at that time, there would have been a vote against the rule of Israel, and it would have actually been only Palestinian land, not a Jewish land.
What year are you talking?
You're talking about even up until 1947. Even 1947, even by the time of that, the maximum there would have been is 30% Jews, 60% Muslim, and 10% Christian.
Can I ask one question without breaking your flow? You're saying that the British reneged on their promise to the Jews? I've heard that they also reneged on promises they made to the Arabs.
Oh, that happened in 1916.
Was that true?
Promised Palestine. But in 1917, they promised the Jews Palestine because it played a role.
So is it true that the British reneged on promises to Arabs and Jews? And that created a large part of the conflict?
We didn't hate each other. There was no animosity before.
There actually, unfortunately, there was. So from most Muslims I speak with, particularly most Palestinians, they believe there was like real nice coexistence, and there were definitely some Palestinians that coexisted nicely with Jews, but Jewish travellers who went to the land documented like extreme persecution that the Jews living there faced, and like basically you could take it from like basically for most of the Islamic period. But so if you like, for instance, when the Ottomans first took the land in 1517, there were massacres in Hebron, I don't know what you call it, Al Khalil, and you have massacres in Jaffa in 1517 in like the like throughout history.
Came out later in the day. Yeah, it was like much more calm conflict.
From 1517 until basically
The
19.
Muslims ruled approximately for about 1,000 to 1,200 years.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's say there were a lot of, shall I say, relative to that, there was only a minority that was actually persecuted by Muslims. Would you agree on that? It was only a minority that
I would say. I think it depended on the Khilafah. So
I think the majority. I told you one for most of the
Saturday sometimes.
we live in peaceful coexistence. You won't accept someone else saying, well, actually, for sometimes
so what I'm saying is, I don't think that's right. I think we can live in coexistence with people. And I
we
think
live in
that,
peaceful?
no, I'm saying no. I'm saying that there were caliphs. So I can give you an example.
I actually wanted to go to
the whole concept of the people of the book.
No, I'm saying I wanted to go to Israel.
So like we give a jizya, for
But I
example.
don't know if
I don't like going to this debate all the time. But for instance, in the Quran,
went
it
last
says
year.
that the reason you give the
That went last year,
jizya is until you make them sagirun, which is
It was
like
the,
humiliate
the,
a temple. And so the Jews
what do you
were
call
always
it?
under the
Christian,
Muslim. And now some Muslim
Jerusalem,
leaders were very good to the Jewish people. Other Muslim leaders, like the Almohads, were absolute tyrants who put us in.
Well, it also killed.
They killed Muslims. Exactly. That's why I tell Muslims don't watch it. So when Muslim dies in the park come to me and say like Jews always had a good under Islam, like Muslims didn't have a good under Islam. So like the majority.
They were like a 36-hour plane and they were only there for 4 days. So they traveled a long way just to go. Like, they were nice.
I like being honest. So I've done a lot of studying Jewish history and Islam, and when I read about Jewish travellers that go in there, it's like 50-50. Sometimes you'll read a traveller who goes to one of the caliphate and it's like there's like nowhere Jews being treated so like well, and they're seen as equal to the Muslims. There's nothing that a Jew then other caliphs there will be the complete opposite. They're like
Over 1,200 years. Do you not think people are giving?
But anyway, I agree. I think we agree. But Muslims have to treat both people. Yes.